Welcome to Never Too Serious with Scott and Dave. I'm Scott.
And I'm Dave.
Dave, I know you watched the President Biden presser recently.
Man, I love that guy.
How do you think he performed?
I think he performed just like anybody thought he would. Oh my, he's an amazing man. I am inspired every time I see him. So
Inspired?
Inspired of what not to do, who not to be like. Oh my gosh, it's so hard to listen to. And I try real hard.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's terrible. And it's like it's the state of the bullshit. It's not even state of the union in its state. It's just bullshit.
Yeah, there's a lot. It just feels like he's such a politician when he's in front of that microphone. And that's only when he's on prompter.
Right.
It just seems like he's, seeing everything through rose-colored glasses. Like, oh, he's done such an incredible job considering. Well, what are you talking about?
I am going to say something positive because we have. We don't have to. We don't have to, and it's hard to do. But I did hear more than one complete sentence that he did say by himself.
Oh,
and I don't even think it was written down. So hats off to him. That should be a win for him. I mean,
well, I mean,
so
this
bad.
actually might be a clip-heavy episode, but I have a little snippet of him, kind of struggling through, but this was almost a 2.5, almost a 3-hour, I think, presser.
Yeah, I was wondering how many times he let go in his diapers that whole time. He can't sit there that long without having to whiz. Not at that age, and not with that mental state. Not in that mental state.
Well, I think that there was a push from his handlers.
Easy.
To show that he's got some stamina.
Right.
The problem is that the more you leave him up there, the more you realize that he just meanders around. Anyone can stand up there for 3 hours, but can you make it look like you're energetic? Can you make it look like you know what you're talking about? And there's a few here. I go, yeah, he's kind of wandering around. Most of his answers were taking forever to get to.
Yeah, he might as well be at the Thanksgiving dinner table, just beep.
Well, and sometimes it surprises me on how he responds to, because he tries to make crack jokes, and be funny, but then other times he almost lost his temper with one of the reporters, and I don't even know which reporter it was, but
neither does he. So you'll be fine.
But I think I have a clip of it, and he kind of goes off on him. A little surprised by his anger.
Are you? He threatened to beat somebody up when he was running, talking about how tough he is.
And but he knows he's this is like a big presser for him, and he should know. Yeah, keep things more
light.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because he's like 4%, approval rating. I'm sure it's up higher than that, like 6 or 7%. No, I don't know where it's fallen down to now, but it's not good.
I think it's in the low 40s. This is approval.
I don't know what the lowest ever was by a president, but man, he's got to be.
It's pretty low.
He's got to be getting down to breaking a record.
Even among his own party, his approval rating is very high.
I think the next election, he's probably going to accidentally vote against himself. Like, I did what? Oh, damn it! Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, he's not in a good way.
He's been kind of touting his accomplishments for this first year. On a side, this is only his second big presser since he started.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, Trump was in front of the microphone all the time, talking off prompter,
right?
And the press was hitting him pretty hard.
And the difference with Trump, and I'm not trying to make this between a Trump versus Biden thing, but Trump had his own ideas and his own plans and his own. When he says, "Hey, I'm going to give it to them like you ain't ever seen before," we went, "Oh shit, here we go," because he means it.
Yeah, we
almost didn't even need the detail. When this guy says, "I'm going to hit him with everything I got," I'm like, "Oh shit." You ever seen Mr. Burns hit it, thrash somebody? That's what I picture him doing.
It was his assistant, Smithers?
Smithers, yeah.
Smithers, go get the dogs.
Biden's worst thing is dumping a bucket of feathers on somebody. Like, take that.
Well, and he tries to act so stern. Hey, do you want to talk about Russia and Ukraine? Oh, we can start there.
I'll say, I think we need to.
Yeah.
No, I don't.
Well, I'll start off.
It's a sad deal.
It is a sad deal. I'm going to start off with the first, the first of many clips that we have, because he had mentioned some things about Russia invading Ukraine,
right?
And it made a lot of people nervous, to the point where right after this presser, Jen Psaki comes out and tries to really massage and
what
and
he
make
really
it official.
Meant was
yeah. Well, I'm gonna play the first one, because if I were Ukraine, in fact, by the time this episode airs officially, who knows? Russia may already be in Ukraine.
Yeah, this could be true.
All right, here we go.
Russia will be held accountable if it invades, and it depends on what it does. It's one thing if it's a minor incursion and then we end up having a fight about what to do and not do, etc. But if they actually do what they're capable of doing with the force amassed on the border, it is going to be a disaster for Russia. My guess is he will move in. He has to do something.
Ukrainian officials reacted with shock.
You think?
You think?
Well, and I also noticed I just saw it and I can't even re-quote it, but he looks down and he goes, Russia will be in big trouble. It says it right here. I'm not sure who wrote it, but it says it. At least I think that's what it say.
Well,
oh my gosh.
He spent a lot of time saying different things, and some contradictory. But the first part, when he's talking about, that Russia, will probably go in there, but our response is going to be dependent on
what they do.
On how serious that is, on the level, right? And I'm just like, you got to be kidding me.
You step foot in there, you're going to get your ass kicked.
That's exactly what it should be.
Right.
I mean, just imagine your house being your sovereign nation, and someone who's considered your enemy steps foot in your house, or heck, even on your property. Yeah. You don't think they're going to be met with some major force?
Right. It's like, well, they took the TV, and the radio and stereo. They didn't rape the family, So we're going to let them go.
Rape the family.
Well, I'm just, putting in,
No, who knows? That could actually be part of their deal. I don't know how bad that things are going to get, but it doesn't matter.
Well, knowing Biden, I would think that he's pretty lax on what people do. You're like, well, as long as they're out there just smoking crack and hanging out with hookers, it'll be okay. Because as long as they don't go overboard and, do stuff that his son wouldn't do.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
now he's going to act.
Yeah. Yeah. There's always those scales.
Yeah. It's like, when is it? When are you going to react, and exactly what are you going to do? Because it's so hollow. But at the same time, he's essentially going, yeah, do what you're going to do, but tread softly.
Yeah. Well, think about...
You're going to do it. And you could take him. He even specifies, even maybe later, that, they have the ability to go in there and do whatever they want to do. And they could take it. And they might have it for a while. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah. And
that's not what anybody wants to hear. They want to hear oh my gosh, are we going to be okay? We're going to be okay. Tell us we're going to be okay.
Well, Russia's got one of the best militaries out there.
Absolutely.
And they've got over 100,000 troops on the border of Ukraine right now.
And he could do whatever they want with Ukraine.
Oh, absolutely. And think about the confidence from, all of our allies when we pulled out of Afghanistan.
Oh, absolutely. They were like, oh man, Russia's like, man, if they're going to come down here and treat Ukraine like they treat the U.S., we're going to walk all over him. We're going to get everything that we want. In fact, they might even write us a check just for the fuck of it.
Well, so we were talking about this a little bit before the podcast. As far as Ukraine's status, they're not officially an ally. In this sort of scenario, Biden's just threatening, Russia will suffer. And he's talking about sanctions. And I don't think Putin really cares about sanctions.
I have a feeling that what he wants with Ukraine is bigger than whatever we could give him, or do to him, I should say, whatever retaliation we're going to give. And again, the retaliation that they're going to get, if they give them the same kind of retaliation as we pulled out of Afghanistan, I'm saying this kind of jacked up, but if they treat it the same way, they're going to be met with zero response.
Yeah.
And why wouldn't they think so?
Oh, sure.
But
that's why Jen Psaki came back and had to clarify. And, even Vice President Harris came out to
thank goodness.
Clarify.
Oh, I'm sure she made it all more understandable.
Well, I do have one of her little interviews.
Well, good. I have not heard it. I would like to hear it because
let me get
me on board.
Let me get to the first one, which is this reporter, the CNN reporter, who's actually in Kyiv and reporting on how Ukraine basically responded.
He needs to get the hell out of there.
Responded to Biden's speech.
And look, I mean, as soon as President Biden made that distinction between a minor incursion and a full invasion, and suggested that a minor action by the Russian military, an incursion into Ukraine, would elicit a lesser response in terms of sanctions than a full invasion. I mean, my telephone just lit up with people texting me, Ukrainian officials saying they were shocked and stunned by what they heard. Usually, remember, US officials talk about the crushing sanctions that will be imposed against Russia if there's any kind of military action at all. This nuance, this sliding scale of, lesser sanctions for a lesser incursion, it's just never been made public before, even though I understand that behind closed doors in the United States, that's always been something that has been considered. It's certainly not been something they've put out there publicly. And,
But that's coming from a two-tiered, justice system. Mm-hmm. What did they expect from how we treat ourselves here?
Yeah. Well, when he mentions that, yeah, sure, behind closed doors, there might be a sliding scale of response and, incursion and how we, respond to it. But publicly, that's Biden screwing up his explanation of what we're going to do if in fact, Ukraine gets invaded.
Yeah. That's like telling them the military move.
Yeah.
We're going to land here. No, guys. Right here. Over to the left. A little bit more to the left. That's where we're going to do our deal.
Yeah, at like 3 o'clock.
Eastern
time.
Yep, Middle Eastern time for sure. But that's exactly right. And yes, I understand the shock, but at the same time, really, this administration, how could you really be shocked? They should have already planned on this.
I guess you're right. It's really not shocking anymore. It is very disturbing still.
Yes, absolutely is. All joking aside, it is effed up disturbing.
Yeah, you wanted to hear Vice President Harris.
Enlighten me.
Because I know you love watching her on TV.
She is so freaking smart. This is like AOC's mom, I think.
What gets to me more about this little clip is sort of, oh, by the way, if you're only listening to the audio, you are missing out. You've got to see the video because the look on her face as she responds to this reporter is priceless.
Yep. Looks like she's wearing a diaper too.
But yeah, they're talking about Ukraine.
Before I leave this, Ukrainian officials reportedly heard these words from President Biden with alarm. I know the White House tried to clarify it and clean it up afterwards, but was the damage done? You can't unring the bell. Is Vladimir Putin likely to listen to a later statement from the White House press secretary or the words of President Biden?
Right.
I will repeat myself. And I'm Vice President of the United States, and the President and I work closely together, and I know his position because he has been consistent in that regard. If Vladimir Putin and Russia takes aggressive action, it will be met with a cost that will be severe.
And guys, see, it says right here that I'm the what is that?
It says Vice President.
Vice President. Yeah, I'm the Vice President. Damn it. Like we can't ask them questions. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, the attitude that she delivers, and she's done this on other interviews too.
Well, sure. It's like we're taking her time. Like, listen, I have a lot of laughing to do, and I can't do any laughing talking to you. Oh my gosh, there is no accountability at all. There's no transparency. Or are they overly transparent? Is that a problem?
I think they accidentally release information, right. Especially Biden in these interviews or in these pressers. Yeah, the whole thing seems very well. I mean, it's unfortunate that we have the leadership in the office right now when we're looking at it from this really inevitable invasion of Ukraine.
Well, she pretty much did say again what Biden said. She said if they did something severe, he's going to be met with something essentially severe. So I also take that as if they do something not so severe, probably get something not so severe.
I'm curious about our allies and what they might do.
Yeah, probably wonder if we're going to be allies. I mean, when we don't react to certain things, it questions. When we didn't react to Afghanistan, the way that America reacts to situations like that, you would think that every ally that relies on us quaked. Like, oh dear Lord.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, they left their own behind. They will not be there for us when we need it, but we better be there for them because they will smite us.
Well,
I mean,
and the person who's really going over and trying to negotiate with them is Tony Blinken. And if you ever watched him do any press, he's a hard one to watch too, because he reminds me of Harris.
Yeah.
Just his attitude towards, he's kind of better than everyone, and the way he kind of talks condescending to people.
Well, when you're given
wonder,
a job, I guess you could have a chip on your shoulder.
Yeah.
She didn't earn that.
I want to move forward towards some of the other parts of this where the press started asking questions, and one of them was talking about Biden kind of over-promising things, because when he was running for office, he promised that he was going to unite the country and he was going to shut down COVID.
COVID's going to be at a standstill.
Yeah. So I think it's kind of interesting to hear his response.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. President. I know some of my colleagues will get into some specific issues, but I wanted to zoom out on your first year in office. Inflation is up. Your signature domestic legislation is stalled in Congress. In a few hours from now, the Senate, an effort in the Senate to deal with voting rights and voting reform legislation is going to fail. COVID-19 is still taking the lives of 1,500 Americans every day, and the nation's divisions are just as raw as they were a year ago. Did you overpromise to the American public what you could achieve in your first year in office, and how do you plan to course correct going forward?
Why are you such an optimist? Look,
what?
Trying to be
I didn't
funny.
overpromise, but I have probably outperformed what anybody thought would happen. The fact of the matter is that
boy, that could be
we're
true.
in a situation where we have made enormous progress. You mentioned the number of deaths from COVID. Well, it was 3 times that not long ago. It's coming down. Everything's changing.
Because everybody's dying.
It's getting better. Look,
Jeez.
I didn't overpromise, but I think if you take a look at what we've been able to do, you'd have to acknowledge we made enormous progress.
Oh my gosh.
But one of the things that I think is something that
he's getting to it.
One thing I haven't been able to do so far is get my Republican friends to get in the game of making things better in this country.
Because you have no Republican friends.
He takes forever to answer the question, and he just says that we did a good job. We've improved
in a lot of what?
But exactly, and then he
we did a good job in improving.
And then he shifts over to starting this process of blaming the Republicans for his failures. It's hard because even just that clip, I wanted to stop halfway through because it was kind of dragging on. This is the entire presser.
Right. And the other thing is that these were some very serious topics that he brought up. Very serious. And he got that, that Joker smile on again, thinking it's funny. It's not funny to the American people. And there are a lot of people that died. There's a lot of people that are dying that are vaccinated. And there's a lot of, I got to get to this a little off topic though. I think I saw whether it's fake or not. I didn't look into it, but I heard the singer Meatloaf. Yeah, he died of COVID, but they have to make sure that it's stated that he was an anti-vaxxer or whatever guy.
Yeah.
So why not make fun of the people that go get a vaccination, and they die? When none of it's funny. Yeah. But wouldn't that be a bigger joke? I mean, none of it should be a joke, but the point is that none of it's stopping it. Nothing's working. Everything they're putting in place, everything that he said that he was, well, maybe this could be kind of towards the topic, that he said that he's going to do and put a stop to COVID and all this stuff. He's not. The stuff that he's saying is in place to help us, all these masks, all these vaccinations, and he's vaxxed, I don't know how many people, but he talks about how many people he's vaccinated, but they're still dying. They're still getting put in the hospital and being next to death, whether they're vaccinated or not. And
he was kind of bragging, well, it was 3 times that amount than it is right now. And it's like, but in your first year, in the same amount of time period that Trump was in office and you've been in office, there's been more deaths under Biden than there was under Trump. And the reality is we know a lot more about the virus now, and Biden put in way more restrictions and encouraged all of his, left mayors, governors and states to also implement all of these restrictions. And there were still more deaths under his administration. Right. And but then he kind of acts the politician and says, yeah, but it was 3 times as high as it is today. Well, yeah, it's because the variant is actually a lot less lethal. And other countries are starting to open up and realize, they're turning into
the UK, I will say, good for them, because this is a situation. I've had friends that had to go to the hospital, family members that had to go to the hospital. Some of them were vaxxed, some of them were not. Mm-hmm. It was a very serious situation for them. And if I get it, I'm concerned that I might get very ill. Mm-hmm. I don't think I'm going to die from it, but I know I could. I might have a uproad hill to tackle to get over it. Mm-hmm. And but it's just taking away too much of our lives, where it's countered. It's the fix is overdoing the how do they say that
basically the problem. The solution can't be as bad as the problem. And right now the solution is.
It is, and I can't go for that, because I know it's sad when all these people are getting harmed by this virus, but everybody's bypassing all the other harm that's coming to people, and that's not fair.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, there's so much scare still out there, and he's, still perpetuating that scare. At the tail end of that, he was talking about, he's angry with the Republicans because the Republicans are so against him.
But just his friendly Republicans.
Yeah, Mitch McConnell.
Just the 3 of them.
Yeah, well, so this next clip I think is interesting, because he's turning like his failures into someone else's fault. And he does that all the time.
Well, of course.
So here's the clip of him sort of asking, well, what are the Republicans actually for?
I did not anticipate that there'd be such a stalwart effort to make sure that the most important thing was that President Biden didn't get anything done. Think about this. What are Republicans for? What are they for? Name me one thing they're for.
Liberty.
Well, there you go. Yeah. There's a lot of things that Republicans are for.
Yeah.
And the reason that they've been fighting is because they are for these things that you are not for. And so, of course, they're going to be fighting against the things that they don't want.
Absolutely.
It makes complete sense. That's how government is supposed to operate.
Yeah, not to give into your dictatorship.
Yeah. Think about, just right off the top of your head, you said liberty. Well, sure.
That's the biggest thing I feel that we've gotten taken away from us.
Mm-hmm.
Even during 9/11, we had a lot of liberties taken away, but it was for our safety.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, there's so many things that fit into that category of freedom. The amount of government intrusion in our lives the last 2 years have been significant.
Yeah. And even when I'm trying to be optimistic, I know President Biden doesn't like optimism, but even when we get our liberties back, it'll probably be only 30% of our liberties. We will never get it all back.
Yeah.
It's been given away.
I hope that when others get into government, we start to get some of them back, because I would like to have some of them back. We've gone so far to the left that I'd like to shift a little bit more, at least to the center. But, other things that the Republicans are for: smaller government, lower taxes.
They hate that.
More freedom in the marketplace, capitalism.
Yep. Democrats hate that.
Yeah. Liberty, personal choice.
Freedom of speech, hate that.
Freedom of speech. Yeah. There's a huge list of things that they're for.
Taking care of your own kids, hate that. Name it.
Yeah.
Name it.
But he asks the question, and he's an oppressor. Listen, the press are supposed to be asking the questions. They're not supposed to be answering yours. I hate it when he does that. And he does it all the time.
Yeah.
He goes, that's just a rhetorical question. Well, just stop with the rhetorical questions. They can't answer you back. You're just talking.
Yeah. Grow a nutsack and freaking answer a damn question. Be serious about it for a freaking second.
And stop blaming your problems on the Republicans, because seriously, he's got more issues with people in his own party, Sinema, Manchin, they were against this Build Back Better. And sure, they got hammered by their own party,
Right.
but still, the majority of the blame still went onto the Republicans. It's like, wait a minute, ahead of time that the Republicans, except for maybe Romney, are really against this big old plan. I mean, there's some others that are, tiptoeing over on that side, but still, come on, you don't blame your problems on the Republicans.
And Romney's not even he's not an elephant. He's not even a rhino. He's like an ostrich. He doesn't even belong.
It's so weird how because when he was running for president, I wasn't completely for all of his policies and stuff, but I watched a documentary on him where the crew was kind of following him around during his run for president, and I think he ran twice. Anyway, and I learned a lot more about him as a person within that context, and I thought, maybe this guy is a good guy, and now just based on how he's kind of voted and the people that he's been agreeing with, I go, I'm not a big fan of his politics.
He might be a good guy, okay, seriously, but not in the position he is. I don't like him in his position, and I'm not a fan of his at all anymore. I was very interested when he started running. I'm like, he seemed like a good, good, decent person.
Yeah, decent person.
And he might be a decent person, but I don't like what he stands for.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. This next clip is a reporter's asking about, maybe since you haven't had so much success, maybe you should scale back.
What?
Mr. President.
Didn't hear that.
You mentioned your Republican colleagues, but right now your top two legislative priorities, your social spending package and voting rights legislation, are stalled, blocked by your own party after months of negotiation. You are only guaranteed control of Washington for one more year before the midterms. Do you need to be more realistic and scale down these priorities in order to get something passed?
No.
No. Where's his Joker smile on that one?
So funny. Okay. His answer is just no, and then after this, he just kind of meanders around. He doesn't want to change course. He's really stuck to it. It's the same thing with COVID. He doesn't want to change course.
Right, because it's gonna show fault.
It's just so funny how he just answered no.
Next.
And you know what? And she actually did. This is kind of what reporters are supposed to be doing. That was a good question.
Right. But I will tell you, it sounds like he actually gave a truthful answer on that one.
Okay, I'll give him that.
All right. Woohoo! I just said something good about that SOB.
So funny.
Oh.
Yeah, because
I wish I could find something positive. Back in the day, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to really think about what I'm trying to say now. That you could maybe find something that you could appreciate from the other person. You know? Mm-hmm. I can't, and I truly try to be open. I swear, I could dislike somebody a lot, but I do try to find something.
Mm-hmm. I've seen it.
I appreciate that he could still stand upright, all by himself, it looks like, but I can't find anything between him and Kamala Harris.
I just think that the problem is that we're actually being impacted by the federal government.
In a great deal.
Yeah, a great deal. And in years past, politicians and stuff, you don't feel it as much. I think we're feeling this way more, at least in the last, couple of years as COVID is, all the restrictions due to, government intervention.
And they sit there and blame all of that. Like they're using COVID to do what they are doing. Like he was blaming COVID on the price of gas. Mm-hmm. Does it have anything to do with you shutting down the pipeline? Maybe. Yeah. I'm just curious. We're buying it now. We're not making it now, or however you say it.
Yeah, we're certainly not energy independent anymore.
So how is that COVID? Mm-hmm. That's a Biden situation. And I like it that when he talks about it a couple times, he's like, when President Biden, well, dude, that's you. Like he talks like he's talking about somebody else. It's like, you got to know that somebody needs to put a mirror up once in a while so you can remember who the hell he is. President Biden did that twice. No, that was you did that. I did that twice. You forget, buddy.
That's funny. Oh. I put a couple of notes down here about how Biden has done in his first year.
Oh my!
And I could have gone on, but I was getting tired of writing stuff down. And anyway, inflation's at a 40-year high.
A 40-year high?
And the thing is that this was not a problem until he got into office and started making all these changes.
Trying to help us out.
Trying to help us out.
Better.
Yeah. Yeah, he felt like he needed to intervene to
the Green New Deal was trying to be implemented too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, debt increase. Now, that's not unique to Biden. It's just that he's also a part of that problem. Because if you think about it, Biden, he's increased the debt, plus all of the proposed spending that he wants to do to, of course, increase it even more. Well, Trump increased the debt a lot in his last year with, I can't remember, it was like a recovery. It had something to do with, of course, COVID at the tail end of his presidency. And then Obama increased the debt quite a lot.
Quite a bit, yeah.
And so increasing the debt is nothing new. It's just that at what point does it stop? And Biden, of course, has no intention of stopping it. No. He says, "Oh yeah, it's not going to cost us anything to do these things."
I'm going to put words in his mouth, but so is everybody else. So, I think that he was saying something like essentially, the more debt we get, the more out of debt we'll be.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the is that?
Yeah, he thinks it's going to stimulate the economy. No. Every time you try and do something, you're screwing it up.
If you want to stimulate this economy, I might have said that right the first time, but is same thing with a workforce.
Mm-hmm.
You want to know what you could do to stimulate us? Take the fucking masks off. Give us back our liberties. The thing that he doesn't know what Republicans are good for or worth.
Mm-hmm.
That will do more than anything. Talking about a boost of, and there's going to be people that still want to wear their mask and still be concerned. Fair enough. But how about this? Let everybody else live their way too. Fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is America after all. But the UK beat us to the freedom punch.
Well, you didn't really want to compare Trump and Biden a whole lot here. But to be honest, if you think about it, this is an area that Trump killed it when he was president.
Right.
He started draining the swamp. He started reducing the size of government at all levels. He reduced taxes. He did a whole bunch to get the government out of everyone's life.
And the Democrats put all the boogers back in the swamp.
Yeah, and it ended up creating this real boom for unemployment, a big boom for economic growth, energy independence. I mean, all of these things happened under Trump because he got government out of the way.
Scott, just to prove your point, what you mentioned earlier, that what he has implemented affected us at ground level,
yeah,
which they shouldn't be,
mm-hmm.
is there was this last year a time in my wife and our lives, we didn't know if we were going to still live here. We're going to make a break for it. We're going to move. We're going to sell our house. And where we live is supposed to be that place where I'm going to, in 35 years, die, and maybe I should give a little bit more ambition to my life, but, but I don't want to go. But we literally had to think about plan A, B, C, and holy shit, all the way to G of what we're going to do. What should we do? What can we do? And that's because there was no bottom to the box. I mean, I wasn't afraid it was falling through. There was no bottom. We're holding on to the sides going, we got to think of something now.
Mm-hmm.
And luckily, we scraped by, and we're still not 100% sure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we don't know where it's going to be in the next few years.
Yep. I know. The uncertainty, because we got him for another 3 years. Let's take a quick break, and we'll talk a little bit about how his stance is on COVID and how great he thinks he's been.
He's been amazing, Scott.
Dave and I appreciate you listening to the show. Please take a moment and write a review on Apple Podcast or Podchaser.com. And since Spotify doesn't currently have reviews, simply telling your friends about the show would be great too. Also, you can always reach out to us at our website, nevertooserious.com, or via our socials at the NTS Podcast. And seriously, from the bottom of our hearts, thanks again for listening to the show.
Some people may call what's happening now the new normal. I call it a job not yet finished.
Oh my God.
Or is it a job that they don't ever want it to be finished?
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned something about his, he has a little business on the side.
Mm-hmm.
Making
Hunter's little side gig.
Yeah, making tests.
Oh yeah,
COVID tests.
So he's I guess given some money to a German company to make COVID tests in the U.S., a factory. And
it's not supposed to be up and going until when?
I think it's like in 3 years.
Right. So what good business would for these guys be to put this thing out? They're going to keep it going.
They're going to keep it going.
It's a big money.
Mm-hmm.
It's a huge money gig for them.
At some point, you have to realize that COVID is going to be, it's less deadly than the flu. So if that's the case, then why would we spend any more money on it? You think about the flu shots that we get every year or people get every year. And, the most vulnerable will do it, or the people who just don't want to get sick will get it. That's kind of, Omicron is from what the data shows, it's less deadly.
Well,
so why are we worried about it anymore?
I have heard so many people getting sick, not so much really going to the hospital, but still getting sick, and a lot of people. I mean a lot lately.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I've heard so few be life-threatening.
Oh, yeah.
It used to be everybody was life-threatened,
Oh, yeah.
But you only heard of only a few here and there, but it was life-threatening almost every time. Mm-hmm. Now it's everybody's got it.
Yeah.
Well, it's really not life-threatening. And besides, and nobody's telling me if they have COVID-19. I don't even know what Omicron, Baricron, or I don't know what they are.
Baricron.
I might have screwed up. That might be the next one. But are they telling us which one it is? Or is it's just COVID?
No, because most of the time, some people are still freaked out, and so they get COVID and they have to go to the hospital thinking they got to get treatment or whatever. And in general, they're sending them home because the symptoms aren't really that bad. And they're not testing them for what variant they have, because to test for the variant there's a little bit more science that has to take place in order to figure that one out. To do the test, it just shows whether you're positive or not.
They have like 6 freaking life-saving vaccinations produced in like less than a year, and they can't figure out which one it is in 24 hours.
They probably can, but the volume of people who are still going in freaking out is ridiculous. But generally speaking, people are just being sent home. I know a lot of people who have had COVID twice now, and they're still freaking out about it as it's so scary, but they've recovered from it twice already, and both times that they had it, it was only for just a few days, and it was like, then they were over it.
That's why everybody's like, quarantine for 5 days and you're fine.
Well, that's why, they've reduced the number of days that you're supposed to quarantine. They still have stupid rules about, if you're vaccinated, then you don't have to go home. You can
go out in public and pass it around.
Yeah.
Oh my heavens.
So on the topic of these tests, and I can't remember, if it is correct, if it's like in 3 years or something, that the factory should be ready to, send these things out. Other producers are out doing it. But the question is, why didn't we have these testing capabilities early on? And Biden here, he says, we probably should have, but we're doing it now.
Look, we're also increasing testing. Should we have done more testing earlier? Yes. But we're doing more now. We've gone from 0 at-home tests a year ago to 375 million tests on the market in just this month. If you buy a test at a store, your insurance will reimburse you. On top of that, we're making 1 billion at-home tests available for you to order and be delivered to your home for free. Just visit covidtest.gov to know how to get that free test to your home.
You are so correct. Nothing is free. Someone's paying for this. Guess who's paying for it? Everyone raise your hand.
Point to the idiot next to you.
If you're driving, please just keep at least one hand on the wheel.
Or just take it and find the first cliff and just go for it. Punch it.
Yeah, I mean, I hate it. I hate it when any government official says free, because they're lying. It's not. It's never free.
Get realistic. Just say you guys could get it at no cost to you at this moment.
Yeah.
Or how about this? Even better. These are your tax dollars at work. Give us a fucking credit for something. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Thank you, taxpayers, because you have put in so many taxes that we can offer this.
We have snorted up
at no additional
cost.
Of
the other money that you've given us.
Yeah. Oh. But I hate it when they say, "Oh yeah, it's free." No, it's not free. It's really not.
Yeah.
Free.
Give us props that anything that we have in this country, anything is off of our backs, good or bad.
I know, it's so frustrating. Do you want to shift from COVID?
Yeah, what else we got?
Let's talk
Speaking
about
of that.
Let's talk about the economy. What do you say?
Oh Lord, let's go back to COVID.
Okay, this one, maybe we'll do one more on COVID, because I kind of I know a little bit about this particular one. Okay, so we'll go.
I'm ready.
Here we go. Cut 13.
Hang on, people.
We provided the states $130 billion. $130 billion to keep our students and educators safe and schools open. Funding for ventilation systems in schools, social distancing, hygiene for classrooms and the school buses. In addition, we've added another $10 billion for COVID-19 tests to be able to be administered at schools. Many states and school districts have spent this money very well. Unfortunately, some haven't.
Yeah. Oopsie.
I love the way, and unfortunately, some haven't.
To each their own. How about say, give it back?
Oh my gosh.
And you know,
that's government for you.
Right. So what about the private schools? What gets me is I don't think the private schools get any of that cash. So, and if they don't, why are these fools following their everything that he says?
Yeah.
Well, they're not getting anything. They have to do it all on their own. And then somebody farts and they're like, I think that's COVID, and the whole school shuts down. And then they guilt everybody into wearing a mask when like, I better just leave it there. Oh,
my brain went down a different path when you said fart and COVID.
Well,
I won't bore the audience with the story. Okay, yes, I will.
I was going to say, please do. You can bore me. I'll listen to it.
Okay, so there's this social media influencer person who was selling their farts. I guess she's like attractive, and she was selling her farts and making money.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that a creepy thing? And you know, we remember when in the sewer systems they were testing and finding COVID existed in the sewer systems? Can you imagine?
These sick bastards are going, oh shit, I don't feel so good.
She's spent more time spreading COVID than any person in the United States.
Oh my gosh. That's a whole other topic alone.
That's so disgusting.
Who buys? Who pays?
Oh, there's a lot of freaky people.
Even if it was free, I mean, who would? and how does she find out that people would? Some sick bastard, but they're like, I tell you what, if you fart in a jar, I'll pay for that.
Listen, the internet is an amazing thing. She's proved it. She makes a lot of money doing it, and I guess for a while there, she had some sort of digestive problem from eating too much protein, and she had to stop selling her products for a while because she had gotten sick and couldn't keep up with the demand.
It's like rip. Oh, all right. This one's gonna be twice as much. There's a little bit more than gas in there.
Okay, I'm sorry, folks. I will move on.
For the record, I realize people understand that should be something that I would have brought up, but that was all Scott, not me.
Yeah,
I
sorry.
Didn't do that one.
Normally Dave would bring stuff like that up.
I didn't tell him to stop though.
Okay, so back to this whole school spending deal. Okay, I know from personal experience that there is a ton of money available for schools to upgrade ventilation, HVAC systems, sanitizing, those stupid transparent barriers that don't do anything to stop COVID. I mean, there's a lot of money for that. Masks. You can get testing kits. Of course, there's a catch with all of this stuff because you have to, like with the testing kits, you have to log it and send it in and track if someone has it, and of course then there's the contact tracing that was such an important thing. I mean, there's a whole bunch of different pieces to it, but there's a ton of money, and you got to believe all the money that's being wasted in public education. This was a great opportunity for people to waste. There are people who are doing these upgrades to their buildings that it's completely unnecessary, and it's costing the taxpayers a lot of money.
Right. And who's been proven throughout many, many years to waste the hell out of our taxpayers' money? The school systems already. And giving them the money. And I understand that there's you have to show proof of some things, but it's like you write them a check because you're doing the right thing. You know,
Biden just said some are not spending it wisely. Okay, well, what are the consequences of that? Well, there isn't any. The feds handed out all this money to the states, and the states then deal with it. And oftentimes the states aren't dealing.
Well, it also, and I don't have any proof of this, but I almost don't need it. You know, the government gets the money. Hold on. Whoa, shame on me. We give the government some money, then the government gets it, and then a little bit on my pocket, and then they pass it on down. And then the states get the money. Then they pass it on down to the schools, and the schools get the money. Now they only have this much more, and will they do the right thing with it? No. And he'll prove that much. Not all of them.
Yeah, I don't have the story in front of me, but Oregon got in trouble for misplacing millions of dollars of COVID relief funds.
What?
Yeah.
That's so rare.
Okay, let's shift over to the economy. And Biden's talking about, the Federal Reserve has to step in.
Oh.
Now, the second challenge we're facing are prices. COVID-19 has created a lot of economic complications,
Shame on it.
including rapid price increases across the world economy. People see it at the gas pumps, the grocery stores, and elsewhere. So here's what we're going to do. A critical job in making sure that the elevated prices don't become entrenched rests with the Federal Reserve, which has a dual mandate: full employment and stable prices.
Okay, it makes me uncomfortable that he is mandating to the Federal Reserve these things, because the way I look at it is there's a lot of ways to get things back moving, get the government out of the way, stop spending so much money, let people keep their money, don't increase our debt, get out of the way, remove some of these restrictions and regulations. But he's talking about the federal government stepping in and doing these two things. Generally speaking, I think the not the federal government, the Federal Reserve. Generally speaking, they just kind of control interest rates. So lending, that's kind of the big thing. Of course, they're involved with the amount of money that they print and create this problem in the first place. But this has already been happening. So now what else can they do? Well, they can start raising interest rates, but that's going to have an impact on people's ability to kind of get back started. Because if you think about right now, there are a lot of businesses who just can't get enough employees.
Yeah.
That's starting to change gradually as like these, unemployment numbers, the unemployment, what's the insurance?
I don't know.
You know what I'm talking about?
No, you sound like you're trying to look for a big word that's more than 3 syllables. I can't do that.
Yeah, when people get paid when they don't have a job.
Oh, their unemployment?
Yeah. Yeah, it's unemployment insurance, right?
Okay.
Is that what it's called? Anyway, when people are receiving that, and, they're not taking jobs, then businesses, well, they have to pay more to get people.
Right.
So, they may have to take out loans in order to have enough money to do these things. And if the interest rates increase, the cost of that money is more expensive to them.
And it wasn't due to COVID; it was due to their reaction to COVID.
Oh yeah.
I wish I could understand the difference of that. And with the gas, if I hadn't brought this up before, that the gas situation is almost all on his shoulders.
Oh yeah.
We don't produce our own fuel anymore.
Yeah. Let me.
How much did it cost you to fill up your rig the other day?
Oh yeah. So it's like a 30-something gallon
Which
tank.
I'm really jealous about still. So you know.
It's my wife's car, but yeah, it was. The debit card has to be swiped twice in order to fill that tank because it stops
exceeds the maximum limit.
It does. It stops at $100.
Because I have like a 15-gallon-ish tank. I'm not too sure exactly, but it ain't 30. But it was like $57. I mean, and it's not even super. It's unbelievable. You know, what he's doing makes Obama's era look decent. and we were paying outrageous costs for things then.
Well, he shut down, these pipelines. He stopped. He said no to drilling or oil exploration on federal lands. Trump did a whole bunch to make us energy independent. We were actually exporting gas or oil to other countries. Now he's asking other countries to release their strategic oil reserves onto the market to reduce the cost of oil. That seems ridiculous.
And Trump, I guess, had that magic wand that could wave and produce jobs. And he's not doing anything to produce jobs. If anything, he produced people to stay the hell at home. There was no incentive for people to get off their asses and go to work when anybody and everybody could have gone to work. Their mandates killed it.
Oh, yeah.
And if they wanted to follow science, that they would never shut anything down at all. He just said, now, mind you, they're telling us how crazy it is right now, but we're not going to lock things down. Well, why in the hell not? It's crazier than it was before, you said, but don't panic either now. But we did panic before. What are we doing?
They're just get out of the way. Come on.
They're so busy literally contradicting themselves. And they wonder why people are, we're all over the board.
Well, and he's blaming part of the inflation rates on the chip shortage. I've got a clip here of him talking about, the problem really is that, the inflation is a problem because, cars and new cars aren't getting the chips that they need. And that creates this, what are you talking about? Let's go back to, what it cost me to fill up my car. Let's go back to talking about how much it cost me to do grocery shopping, each month.
It's $3 more for a what the hell is that called? A container of ketchup. Cheese is $9 a block, not $6. And $6 is outrageous.
Yeah, I had some fast food today, and normally it costs me less than $5 for this particular set of order that I unfortunately frequent, and and it was just over $7 for the same order, and that's changed within the last week.
I remember going and getting a burger and fries, and I look up there going, how about just the burger? Holy crap, the burger's $8. $8.
Yeah.
I mean, it is the same cost going out to a restaurant, if not more, at a fast food restaurant.
Well, so he's I'm not going to play all these clips because it'll just run us over time. But he's talking about beef and the cost of beef, and he says, "Oh, well, there's just such a small number of meat producers out there. We need to increase competition and do some." And he's not talking about really increasing competition, and he should have zero to do with that because the free market will recognize the demand and respond to it. He doesn't need to do anything about it. He just needs to get out of the way, get rid of some of these restrictions. But he's talking about, we're going to increase the competition, and we're gonna try and work with these producers. And no, just get out of the way.
Yes,
get out of the way.
100% agree with you. Just shut the flip up and get out of the way.
So there's a recent article on CNN. It says the title is, "Should the government control the price of food and gas?" Oh my God. Can you imagine? It's bad enough.
Yeah.
What if they go in and start saying, "Oh, you know what? You can't charge more than, I don't know, $2.50 a gallon."
How's Kim Jong-un doing? Huh?
Yeah, right.
I mean, do we really want to go that route? I mean,
every time the government comes in and sets a price, it doesn't change the demand. In fact, it makes it harder for there to be competition, because if you set a sales price, the people who are actually wanting to sell that thing because there's a certain amount of demand for it, they won't come in because they know that they can't make more money on it. At some point, there's a supply and demand, and they meet. And right in the middle is what we pay.
Right.
So increases the supply, and guess what? That price is going to go down.
And if I ask Kamala Harris about it, hey, she'll be like, "I'm the vice president. Damn it."
She'll remind you she is the vice president.
With zero answer.
And then
zero plan.
And then if you ask Biden, he'll say, "Well, she's the president."
Yeah, damn right. He will. They. Whoops. Yep.
Oh, so dumb. You want to talk about voting rights?
Yeah.
Because that was another area he was talking about.
Yeah. That's important.
It's amazing that the current president is is basically seeding some doubt. People hammered Trump about having these claims of voter. What did he call it? What was his exact terminology?
Oh my gosh, fraud.
Yeah,
voter fraud.
Yeah, I think maybe that was what it was. And that seeds doubt in our election system. Right. And the guy who was the benefit of the last election, who won, is now seeding doubt in future elections.
And I believe that that's a racist act, because I swear it was him and his administration calling everybody racist for even thinking that there was, that there was doubt or fraud or anything that was nefarious happened.
If you're not on board with his plan, you're a racist.
Yeah.
I got some footage for you. This particular one, just the reporter is asking about, what he thinks about the Voting Rights Act.
Thank you, Mr. President. Speaking of voting rights legislation, if this isn't passed, do you still believe the upcoming election will be fairly conducted and its results will be legitimate?
Well, it all depends on whether or not we're able to make the case to the American people that some of this is being set up to try to alter the outcome of the election.
Oh, it's all about communicating to the American people.
But it doesn't happen.
Maybe I'm just being too much of an optimist. Remember how we thought not that many people were going to show up to vote in the middle of a pandemic? We had the highest voter turnout in the history of the United States of America. Well, I think if, in fact, no matter how hard they make it for minorities to vote, I think you're going to see them willing to stand in line and defy the attempt to keep them from being able to vote.
I agree with him. I don't think that minorities are as frail as he thinks they are. If they are our backbone that he says they are, which I agree that they are just as capable as anybody else. Oh my gosh. And he makes it sound like that they have, I guess to be fair, maybe he's talking about the people that are here illegally. It's really hard for these people that don't have ID, the people that, Americans, and I mean legitimate Americans, have no problem. If they don't want to vote, they just don't.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing harder for one race against another race.
He's already, he's kind of going against his own argument.
Of course he is.
Because he's saying that minorities are going to be, basically prevented, from getting access to voting. But then he's saying, no, they're going to wait in line to vote. Oh, yeah. Well, a lot of people wait in line to vote. That's the way some states operate their polling stations. But what bothers me is that he just says minorities. I don't get, what is it about minorities that have restrictions over any other part of the population?
That's why I had to go with, he must be talking about illegal aliens or something, because I know, I guess a minority would be a white person. So I know white people that didn't go vote.
Mm-hmm.
And they have just as much the same abilities to move around and to talk and write as anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry, I'm sick of that, because to me that's a racist statement.
Mm-hmm.
Because they have just as much abilities in this country as anybody else ever did. How much harder was it for people back in the day, in the 1800s to vote versus now? It's way easier for every single human being, and that goes for illegal aliens to vote.
And the thing is, though, with all these different proposals for legislation, really the American people just need to know that their vote counts, that it's taken care of, that we should have confidence in our elections. And what he keeps doing is seeding doubt that our current system of elections are actually not fair.
And they've been fighting for this longest time here to say it's right. Do not judge it. Do not doubt it. It is a strong system. It doesn't fail. And now they're like, listen, this stuff does fail, because he knows he's failing, so he needs a backup.
Mm-hmm. This is another area where, of course, he's kind of lying about his his record a little bit. But this is a little bit longer clip about his stance on the voting rights.
Let me ask you, big picture, particularly when you think about voting rights and the struggles you've had to unify your own party around voting rights. Unity was one of your key campaign promises. In fact, in your inaugural address, you said your whole soul was in bringing America together, uniting our people. People heard the speech that you gave on voting rights in Georgia recently, in which you described those who are opposed to you to George Wallace and Jefferson Davis, and some people took exception to that. What do you say to those who were offended by your speech? And is this country more unified than it was when you first took office?
Number one, anybody who listened to the speech, I did not say that there were going to be a George Wallace or a Bull Connor. I said we're going to have a decision in history that is going to be marked just like it was then. You either voted on the side, that didn't make you George Wallace or didn't make you Bull Connor. But if you did not vote for the Voting Rights Act back then, you were voting with those who agreed with Connor, those who agreed with I think Mitch did a real good job of making it sound like I was attacking them. If you notice, I haven't attacked anybody publicly.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Not publicly.
two points. Of course, yes, he has. I mean, he's attacked people publicly all the time. He's attacked people of his own party. Yeah. But the other is, he talked about unity and bringing the country together. And the speech that I've got some clips here to compare the two. But he really has been more divisive with the public, and he's using race as one of those things. When he says, "Oh yeah, I didn't say that these people were those people, those racist people of the past," but he said that if you voted with them, you are with them. You're on their side.
Right. And didn't he vote for the KKK folk? And he was like buddies with the KKK folk back in the day, too? Well,
keep in mind that the original racists were really a lot of Democrats.
Yeah, sure were.
Yep, sure were. I know. And it's so funny because modern Democrats don't even know that was part of their history.
Nope. They're the easiest ones to be washing that brain.
Mm-hmm. I want to play, here's cut 4. This is where he kind of gets upset with the reporter and talks about, when he was, calling people racist, basically, if they disagreed with his voting rights thing.
I know that you dispute the characterization that you called folks who would oppose those voting bills as being Bull Connor or George Wallace, but you said that they would be sort of in the same camp.
No, I didn't say that. Look what I said. Go back and read what I said.
Ooh.
And tell me if you think I called anyone who voted on the side of the position taken by Bull Connor that they were Bull Connor. And that is an interesting reading of English. I assume you got it in the journalism because you like to write.
So I ask every elected official in America, how do you want to be remembered? At consequential moments in history, they present a choice. Do you want to be on the side of Dr. King or George Wallace? Do you want to be on the side of John Lewis or Bull Connor? Do you want to be on the side of Abraham Lincoln or Jefferson Davis?
He got so angry with the reporter. I mean, seriously, it's a good question.
Right. But the problem is he's just reading somebody else's mumble jumbo,
But he's not telling the truth here, because yes, he did. He basically said that these people are voting on the side of these, racist people. Do you know who Bull Connor is, by the way?
No, enlighten me.
Yeah, I had to look him up because I wasn't around back when he was.
I know who William Wallace is.
William Wallace. So Bull Connor, he was an American politician, served as commissioner of public safety for the city of Birmingham, Alabama. Hotspot for racism, of course. And he was in there for 2 decades, and he's a member of the Democrat Party, and he was strongly opposed to the civil rights movement of the 1960s.
Oh, he's a keeper for 2
but
decades.
I like to highlight member of the Democratic Party because, they were a big part of a lot of the racist activities.
Absolutely, yeah.
And now, the Democrats are like all upset about it.
Own it,
The
Democrats.
Republicans are that way. Yeah, it's just, it drives me crazy.
And to be fair, and I'm going to get this quote wrong, and that's fine by me. But when he was running, and he was talking to some African American dude, and he was like, "Well, you need to figure out who you're voting for. You aren't voting for me. You ain't black or something." He's like, "What the fuck is that?"
Yeah. He was doing that on the campaign trail. That makes no sense. No sense. Let's shift over. Mental fitness from Biden. There was a reporter actually asked about it.
Well, I won't say he's in. He looks. Oh, you said mental. Oh, okay. I was gonna say he's. I'm a little bit fatter than he is, so he's a little bit physically better shape than me, probably.
I'd like to raise a delicate subject, but with utmost respect for your life accomplishments and the high office you hold. A poll released this morning by Politico Morning Consult found 49% of registered voters disagreeing with the statement, Joe Biden is mentally fit. Not even a majority of Democrats who responded strongly affirmed that statement.
Ouch.
Well, I'll let you all make the judgment whether they're correct.
Well, so the question I have for you, sir, if you'd let me finish, is why do you suppose such large segments of the American electorate have come to harbor such profound concerns about your cognitive fitness? Thank you.
I have no idea.
Oh,
he has no idea.
Huh?
No,
What?
That proves it.
Oh my gosh! you have an opportunity to set things straight, and he doesn't want to take it.
I just, it's been obvious. I mean, even, of course, members of his own party realize that he's not all there.
And I think that's probably why he got put in place there.
Yeah. We're running a little bit late here, but I want to end the show with just a collection from this particular presser, some highlights of his awkward moments, and
that'd be great.
Yeah.
We passed a lot of things that people don't even understand what's in it, understandable.
Gas.
One of the things that I remember saying, and I'll end this, I think it's extremely realistic to say to people, because let me back up. So whether or not we can actually get election, and by the way, I haven't given up. We haven't finished the vote yet on what's going on voting rights and the John Lewis bill and others. Allison Harris, please. Very few schools are closing.
I hate that.
Over 95% are still open. Is becoming much more informed on the the motives of
my son.
Some of the political players and some of the
give him something to read fast.
And the political parties.
What are the political parties?
By the way, it's a quarter of, guys. So I'm going to do this. If you answer me easy questions, I'll give you quick answers.
Just ask him easy questions.
That's my president.
Well, the whole thing was really difficult to watch. It was just very long. You saw in the clips here, he took some pauses, but that was not, that was just a small segment of how many he took throughout this entire thing. It was really, you watched a lot of it. It was really hard to get through.
Very hard to get through.
We'll see how things go.
Yeah.
I think Ukraine might be in trouble.
That is a sad situation.
Yeah.
I feel for them as well. We're all going through this COVID life in this world, and they have something way more dire to deal with.
Yeah. Well, maybe COVID stuff for us will follow suit with what the UK is doing in Florida and Texas and some of these other.
We can only hope
states.
it keeps going that direction for sure.
All right. We'll leave it at that. Thanks again for watching. Catch more information on our website
at never2serious.com.
Yeah, send us an email. We'd love to hear from you. It is
at mailbag@never2serious.com.
Nice. Man, Dave, you got this down.
Well, I do.
Yeah. Find us on social media as well. We're on Twitter, Gettr, Parler, and our handle is at the NTS Podcast. So
yep, find us on your mama's bathroom wall, sketched in there.
I hope not. All right. Well, until we see you next time, take care
and be safe.